Hello, welcome. Thanks. Welcome on our workshop regarding the journey to the Atlassian cloud. Hey everyone, welcome. So we are already a lot of people, but we are expecting so more. So we are just waiting 1 or more 2 minutes. And it's just the time to say that today I'm not alone. I'm with my colleague, Tom Morse here. So I don't know if Tom, you are able to speak or not, or you are going to. No, not so much. So I don't know if some of you, here we are. That's Tom. Indeed, we are at the office today. So lucky us. Hello. So much people. Academic 5 minutes. I agree with Manuel, of course. Manuel is our boss, so we have to say yes when he asks for something. And I can imagine that most of you already understood the fact that we have a chat. So we have a public chat. If you would like to share something, ask question. If you would like to share emoji as well, indeed, you can just use the chat. So it's a good way to share information together, to communicate together. Normally, you should be muted, of course, to noises, etc. So the only one who can speak today is myself for 1 hour, and of course Tom for, normally it should be 1 hour. I expect from him that it could be more than this, but we will do our best. Then during the session, we are going to propose you some question via the system. So if you see something appear on your screen, it's not a virus or something like it. It's only us that are asking some question. And because we proposed you to get some gifts, we will share with you a specific link to get them. So because it's already time to move to the presentation, I'm going to switch my own screen, not yours. And so let's start for it. So hello everyone, I'm Guillaume. I'm a consultant for Gyro, and today I'm here to talk about the main difference between the server environment that you probably know, and of course the cloud environment, which is the other proposal from Atlassian. So server and cloud product. You probably know the server environment and you probably know the cloud environment, but what are the main difference between them? What solution should you use for this, and what solution should you select for your team? Atlassian is the provider of the solution. They propose a lot of products, and you probably know some of them. So the most important to understand is some products are only available on server environment and some are only on cloud environment. If I give you an example on this picture, you can see that it exists Cloud, which is a product for on-prem environment, and you can see that exists Atlassian Access as well. Atlassian Access is a product not really like Cloud, not 100%, but more or less it's for user management. That's one of the examples. If we talk about Trello, which is another type of product, Trello for task management, it's available on cloud only. Sorry. I would like to notice the fact that sometimes if you don't see Gyro Core in this case, it's because Atlassian decided to don't work on Gyro Core in a way anymore, but on Gyro Work Management. So some of you know Gyro Core, but for the cloud environment, it's Gyro Work Management. And during the presentation, I will explain what is the main difference, and you will see why Gyro Work Management is in a way better than Gyro Core. So let's move to the other important information. If you don't know Atlassian's product so well, you probably don't know that Atlassian products are linked to the marketplace. So you must know what's the difference between the product, not only, for example, if you take two add-ons that do the same in a way, it's possible that one of them is not compatible for the cloud and the other is compatible for the cloud. The fact is, maybe you could have an add-on which is available for the cloud, but don't provide the same functionality features than the on-prem environment, maybe because it's new, maybe it provides more than before, etc. So when you would like to move from one product to another, please ask us for it, because we have some experience about cloud migration and the difference between products. And sometimes if you are used to a specific product on the server environment, but you would like to move to the cloud, you would like to find the same product, but it doesn't exist, we can propose you a solution for this. If you would like to buy a product, you must think about a lot of points. So what about you and your situation? So meaning, for example, on server environment, you don't have a subscription. It's something you buy. So you buy the product and you get a maintenance each time that you renew your product. On cloud, it's really different, because on the cloud product, you talk about subscription, meaning if you stop to pay, it's not, you won't have maintenance anymore. You won't have product anymore. That's really different. And the plan are proposed in, mainly proposed in 4 different plans. The first one is the subscription for free. So meaning you have some limitation on the product. You have, for example, some restriction regarding the number of users, but we are going to cover it then. You have the standard, premium, and enterprise. So of course, if you go for enterprise, that's the best plan you have, the highest plan you have, and you can have some more functionality. The fact is, the maintenance on the server, so the renewal, is only for yearly payments, which is not the case for the cloud. You can get a monthly payment, you can get a yearly payment. There is some difference, not only the fact that your invoice comes monthly or yearly, it's the fact that on monthly payment, you can pay for each user that you use, and for yearly, as for the server, you just have something like a user tier. So if you are, I don't know, maybe 76 people in the company, if you go for monthly, you can pay for 76 people. If you go for one more or one less, your invoice will be adapted based on the number of users. If you have the yearly, as for server, you are on the user tier from 50 to 100, and so you pay for the same amount. And if you don't go up or less than the lowest or highest user tier, you don't change it. The price is the same. That's why it's still the same. If we talk about Gyro, you have the work management, so equivalent to the core system, formerly the core from Atlassian, and you have the software for the development team or service management for the support team. That's the 3 main products proposed by Atlassian for task management. And if we take a look to the different plan, that's the plan for Gyro work management. So there is some difference. You see here that we don't talk about the premium or enterprise plan. It's only for free and standard because it's basic for basic task management. The free plan is limited to 10 users maximum. Standard is until 10,000 users. So it should be enough depending of your company, of course. And we will see on the next slide that you can go for more for other products. If we talk about an automation, the difference is on server, if you wanted automation, it existed. Automation Lite, which was free, and Automation Pro, which was something you pay for. Automation is included in any cloud product from Atlassian, so any Gyro cloud product, of course. So it means that you can use it, but with some limitation. So for example, on work management, as you can read on the screen, it's single project unlimited, but if you would like to use for global, meaning you have the project A, B, and C, you would like to do some automation between project, it's limited to a number per month. If you go for the standard, of course, it goes up. The rest is clear if you talk about the advanced permission. So it's something to allow you to use a permission scheme, etc., to better or to manage in a best way, or what the people can do or not. On the free plan, it's not included. You can't do it. On standard plan, it's included. The project roles, the same. If you would like to say that, okay, we have, for example, permission, we would like to associate specific permission to specific people, you must associate the roles. Again, not include. If you would like to track what people are doing with the audit logs, not include. Anonymous access is something nice. But it's not here yet, so it's coming soon. So Atlassian is still working on it, but it's pretty nice because it lets people outside of your organization view and create issues without logging in, which is a plus to me. If we talk about the data residency, it's something nice to have in Europe as well, of course. So it's not included on any free plan. It's only included on billable plan. The storage is limited from 2 gigabytes to 250 gigabytes. If we talk about Gyro software or even Gyro service management, some difference as well. So if we talk about the free plan, when we talk about Gyro software, we talk about users. If we talk about Gyro service management, it's agents. That's the difference. The free plan is limited on number of users, and if you go for a billable plan, of course, you will get more users. The automation is different as well, because for the free, standard, premium, and enterprise, you can see that it's a single project unlimited on the basic, so free and standard. But if you go up for premium and enterprise, you can do global and multi-project as well. So Audit Lock is something from the first billable plan, IP allow listing, which is a plus to me because it could, if you use a VPN today, for example, IP allow listing could be a solution for you because it's limiting your site access to trusted IP ranges. So if you would like to say only those people can access to it, you can do it from the premium plan. The Sandbox, so if you would like to test something, install a new application, get the validation, and so on, what is happening, you need a Sandbox. On the on-prem, of course, you can create your own environment and test by yourself. On cloud, not so easy. It's why on premium and enterprise, you have the Sandbox. And you can replicate with all the product, etc. And so you can test when it's done. You say, we have the validation, we can go for the production live environment. Data residency as well, as explained before. And storage unlimited from the premium plan. If we talk about a product which is really important in your company, you talk about the SLA. So of course, it's best effort when you talk about free, but when you talk about standard as well. If you go for a standard, premium, and enterprise plan, it goes up and you have from 99.9% to 99.95% of SLA. The other main product is, of course, Confluence. If you talk about documentation, if you talk about a wiki in a way, you can have Confluence for the free, standard, premium, and enterprise plan as well. The difference is number of users and analytics. Analytics to me is really a plus. If you would like to get, for example, some statistic about who is viewing the page, etc., some any action regarding your page, in a way you can get some graph and some reports on it. It's included from the premium plan. It's really, really useful. If you would like to have it on the server environment, you have to pay for it. If you would like to do a bulk archive pages, it's something we can do. So for example, in case of documentation, you say that we don't support anymore this, and you would like to clean up a little bit your documentation, the bulk action are really a plus. And of course, again, from the premium plan. External collaboration is coming soon as well. It's something really, really useful because it allows you to add people outside your organization to particular spaces. So I can't tell you more today because I don't have enough information, but Atlassian is going to provide you with more information later. I don't know if it's something billable or not, if you can select or customize the maximum, the permission, etc. But I'm pretty sure it will be nice because each time that I talk about Confluence, it's a question that appears. Okay, what if I would like to provide an access to external people? You can use anonymous access or you pay for them. Of course, it's not always possible. Automation, that doesn't exist on the on-prem environment, is something really nice because automation will allow you to do some action like you do in Gyro. So sometimes people ask me, what do you want to do? Then I say, imagine that you create a page with some characteristic and you know that each time you would like to create another page, like a children, for example, like a child and some children, of course, you could maybe create it via automation. So even for documentation, I'm pretty sure we will get a lot of features with it and you will get a lot of possibilities. Sandbox, again, so the same. If you talk about a new add-on, you would like to test it, just use the Sandbox, and storage different as well. SLA the same. We didn't talk about the fact that on the cloud, you have product inside of your organization or your site, etc. I will cover it later, but there is something really specific to know. We talked about crowd and Atlassian Access. Atlassian Access, again, is a product only for the cloud, and it's a way to connect any sources, user management sources, Active Directory, etc., directly from your source to your product. You can use SSO as well, and it's a way to unify the user and policy management, and it's included in enterprise plan. So Atlassian Access, normally you should pay for it, but because you are on enterprise plan, in this case, it's included. Hope anything is clear for now. I see that Tom is not stressed at the moment, so it sounds good. Let's talk about the user experience. As I mentioned, so you know that on server environment, you have your own network, so it's not necessarily something on the internet. It could be something inside of your company on a private network, and this private network allows you to connect to your server, to your environment. So the server is nothing if you don't connect it, of course, to the database or the file system, and all those information are used by the product. So that's how it works. It was really fast. I don't want to go too deep in details, but that's the way of working. When we talk about the cloud environment, it's literally different. The cloud is, you need an internet connection. We also talk about IP, allow listing, etc., but let's keep general. So you have an internet connection and you have products. So you can imagine something like all the products are connected to your internet connection, so to your own ID, etc. I'm going to explain it later. And because we need to structure it, we are going to see how the structure is done. So meaning that you can have an organization. Inside of the organization, you will have a site, and inside of the site, you could have some product. But sometimes it's not easy. For example, Tom and myself, we have an ID for Atlassian, and we would like to connect to the product from a customer. And of course, we have a lot of customers, so we have a lot of access, and it's not always easy to find back our product. It's why Atlassian decided to make it easy, and you just have to use, for example, the URL start.atlassian.com, and in this case, you get this page where you can see that I can switch to some product. So if you take a look, I have Gyro Service Management on this. You have Gyro Service Management for Hidalgo, GLO, Gyro Service Management for Hidalgo, you have for another one, etc. You could have Confluence twice or maybe more. So it's not always easy to get it, but in one place, I can find all the product. So it's always related to you, so to your access to the product. How does it work? Because probably you would like to get another view to make it easier to get. So in our case, we have the structure, as I mentioned, you have the organization. Let's say, for example, Hidalgo. Hidalgo is a company with which is located in France, Belgium, Ukraine, Costa Rica, and so on. And so Hidalgo is still the same company. Then you have the site. So if we would like to have a specific site, so meaning specific Gyro software or service management for a French customer and also for Belgium customer and also for worldwide customer, we can create a specific site. It's still a part of Hidalgo in general. So the organization is a big box, and inside of the box, you split based on the site. So the site is the URL as well. Let's say that, for example, in Belgium, we have a lot of people who are developers, and so we need Gyro software. In France, we only have, for example, support team. So we just need Gyro Service Management for France, and for Belgium, we have Gyro Service Management, Gyro software, etc. If you take a look to my screen, you see that I have Hidalgo GLO, which is the organization, so the small icon in black, and just below it, you have another icon in red, which is my site. hidalgoglo.atlassian.net is the site where I can find all the product, and it could be, for example, Hidalgo Belgium or Hidalgo France. Inside of the site, you can find all the products related to this site. So it's really easy, just need to get it. That's not too complex. We have a lot of information about it because if we go deeper, of course, and Tom explained me something earlier today, we have a lot of solutions. So even if you have a lot of sites, etc., we can explain you how to organize, how to structure anything. It's not a problem. Let's move to the product. And of course, we start with the beginning with Gyro. So Gyro Core for on-prem, and in our case, Gyro Work Management. So in general, Gyro, it's to manage your tasks, and it means that you must go on the platform and see how does it look. So in our case, that's a new interface on the cloud environment. So your work is kind of, before it was a dashboard for you. You can keep the dashboard if you prefer, but your work is a dashboard created for you, and that allows you to get an overview of your job in general. So if you take a look, recent project is a way to find all my projects with a quick links that allows me to see all open issue, my open issue, get an overview on the queue or a kind of shortcuts to my dashboard. You see that I have some tab just below with a worked on, so meaning the last issue that I've worked on, last issue viewed, assigned to me, or even the start. Start are a way to add as a favorite, for example, some dashboard, filters, issue, queues, etc. It's something you can do. So it allows you to work faster. If you go to the top left corner of the website, you see that we have a menu with 9 dots. If I click on it, it's like before. So on-prem, you had something like it. That allows you to see any product, for example, that you have. I can switch from Gyro to Confluence to Bitbucket and so on. And I can add even some internal shortcut, for example. So if you take a look to the end of the list, you have a way to manage list. I added the portal or Gyro Service Desk and software on-prem, for example. So let's move to the issue view, because I can say that's a little bit different. It depends if you are on a software project, if you are on service management or work management project, but in general, that's the same than before. So meaning you still have all the information on your screen. The difference is the way to structure it. So if you take a look, for example, the right panel before on-prem was only for some information like the SLA, or people assigned to an issue, or even related to the portal. It was for the time management and so on. If you take a look on my screen, you can see that all of that here are in a single place. But we can collapse, expand as before, and we can even hide some fields that I'm not interested in. I can just restructure all the part here. So you can choose and customize the view as you prefer. If someone of you are like me, you will prefer, for example, to get a clear view, so the issue view screen with some tab to structure all information. It's still something you can do. So even if you would like to switch to kind of older view, we can, so it's not a problem. If you take a look to the rest, you see that the action button, you have less than before. So it's less confusing than before as well. So for example, the create subtask is something you have a direct access. Before, you must go to more and go to create subtask. It's sometimes hard for some people. Here, the button is already there. Link issue as well. And if you click on the more option, you will see that you can link directly to a Confluence page and so on. On the top right corner, you still have something like the watcher, you still have the ability to share, you still have the more action, etc. So there is a lot to do. The difference is the action that you can do. If you would like to transition from one status to another, it's not like before. Before you had something like 3, 4, 5 buttons with the action name to move from one status to another. Now you have the status, and on the right side, or you can directly click on it, you click and it expands the menu with all options you have. So it's less confusing. It's only one place to just do the action you need. For the rest, you can imagine that we have a list of subtasks, still with some information like the key, summary, priority, assignee, and so on. And any link to the issue is there as well. So there is not so much difference. if I proposed you finally the cloud before the server and you had to go on the server, for example, I'm pretty sure you will tell me that, okay, I'm not used to it. I need some time to adapt, etc. That's the same from one place to another. It's always the same. After 2 days, probably you won't think anymore about it. So it will be really easy to use. If we talk about the backend, because it's not something people can see directly, it's only the workflow with any property in a way or any action you can do. So a workflow is associated to a lot of stuff like the post function, meaning any action done automatically by the system. So if I click on take in charge, when I take in charge an issue, assign it to me directly. If you talk about the conditions, it's a way to validate if we can or not show the action, so the transition. The validator is a way to validate the fact that you can go to the next step. For example, let's create an invoice in a process and you didn't provide a number. In this case, it doesn't work, so you have a screen, you fill in with the number. If it doesn't work, you have an error message. And some other new functionality. The fact is, on the cloud environment, you have more of this. So a good point is, for example, the validators, you were able to use a system field to compare some values sometimes, etc., which is not the case on a server. No, you can do it via the custom field, etc. If we talk about the post function, the same, and validators as well. So it's something normally we propose to buy an add-on. And today with the cloud, we don't have to, because if we keep it simple, we are able to do it via the basic from the cloud possibilities. The other point, because sometimes, okay, post functions are not enough. And the fact is, if you would like to edit a workflow, probably you must be an administrator on the platform. We talk about the automations. Automation is really nice for a lot of reasons because of, for example, the interface is more user-friendly. It's clear. So if you would like to change something, etc., it's something you don't have to be a developer for this or even an expert. Anyone can understand. And if you are not an admin of the platform, if you are only a project admin, you have an access to it, which is good as well. So automation avoids the human errors. You must check the plan first, because as explained, if you have a standard or free plan, probably you will have some restriction on the numbers or possibilities, etc. But it allows you to win a precious time. It could be project or global. It's really important as well. And as just mentioned, project admin can edit the automation. For example, I know that when those information are provided in an issue, I would like to assign automatically to the expert. Expert is not there anymore for a week or 2 weeks because of vacation. Yeah, then the project leader is going to update the automation when he leave, and of course when he come back. That was for Gyro in general and Gyro work management. In this case, it's not a white screen, of course. Sorry. Here on the screen, you can see that the summary is still there. I don't know if some of you use it, and even the statistics is probably not something you used a lot, but it still exists. Then if we move to the next point, we see that we have the list view. The list view here is new and only available on cloud. It allows people to just get a clear list, a clear overview of the issues related to the project with the type, the key, and so on. The fact is, from the list, you can filter with some information. You can directly switch from a status to another, assign to someone, change the due date. So all those stuff can be done directly from the list itself. If you would like to create a new issue, just click on create and it goes directly to the list view. So, sorry, it's really easy to use. If we move to the next point, that's the board. To me, it's probably one of the big plus we have on the Gyro work management system, because I've seen a lot of customers just ask me, okay, I would like to use Gyro Core, but I need to have a board. If you want a board, you have to buy Gyro software licenses. It's more expensive indeed, but that's how it is. So it's not a choice. If you go for Gyro work management, that's the most affordable licenses you have, and you get a board. It's not so powerful as the board proposed by Gyro Software, but mainly what we do is just you have a basic workflow like this one, and you would like to drag and drop issue from one place to another. Basically, that's what we are expecting from a board, and it works here. So you have your Kanban view, you can use it. So it's nice. Calendar view is a plus as well. If you would like to just show, for example, a due date or something specific, we can see here that the status are shown on the screen. So if it's green, it's okay. If it's blue, it's in progress. And of course, gray is still to do. So I'm not really happy with the fact that if I go back in time on the 4th of the month, I see that it's in red because the due date is passed, but my issue is not done. And I know that the issue for tomorrow is done. So not really good. In a simple view, you can get a clearer view of your task and just take a look. What should we do? What are the priority for now? Next one is the timeline view. So timeline view is really useful as well. So you see here that you have a lot of possibilities with, for example, we have the candidate and then you have all the issues. Based on this, I can see that I have, I don't know you say that, but a period of interview. And so it starts from this date to another date. And I see that I created some link between them because I know, for example, the recruitment for with Willie Spring and Bill Bodemi should be in the other side, meaning that I started to work on another task, which is done before the other one, which is not done yet. So it's not really nice. And again, you can, of course, filter and so on. Nice point, again, is let's say you have an accounting team in your company and people are just always sending a lot of email to accounting. They just convert the email to a task, etc., but they don't get the nice response, so they must reply via mail, blah, 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 really complex. So in our case, Gyro Work Management allows you to generate a form like this one, and you can select the field that you would like to ask, make it required or not, for example. So there is a lot of possibilities, and you get a clear view to share with your colleague with some information. So here I get a list, what I'm expecting to manage your task. Please fill in the form. It creates automatically an issue in my system, and my accounting team can manage it. It's really easy. Then another one, which is really nice to me, if you are someone who is looking always for issue based on some criteria, etc., you get directly from the project a way to find issues. So you see here that I have the basic view, but I can switch to the advanced mode with the GQL, and I can select any information. I still have my support from Gyro to build my own query, of course. And of course, if I would like to, I can expand this view to get a nice overview like I love, because it's structured, it's clear. So I can say my project equal to, and I add any information that I need. When it's done, you just have to save your filter and reuse it later. For example, if you would like to create any dashboard. For Gyro Software, so you can imagine some of the tricks that I've shown you is still available not only on Gyro Work Management, but also on other stuff. For Gyro Software, the main difference are huge in a way. The main layout is still the same. So if we talk about the backlog, for example, if you talk about the Kanban view, etc., it's something that you already know. So I have a list of any issue that I must manage. You still have the sprints, you still have the epics panel, you have the versions panel, and on the right side, you still have the preview of your issue. So it's easy to manage. You can click on your issue, get a clear list, etc. Again, it's something you can manage as you did before. So you just go to your board management and you set what you want to have. So the other point is regarding the filters. So before, company just always ask, okay, if we would like to see the job of this guy or of this girl, okay, you just create a filter for this and then you apply the filter. But sometimes you would like to make it quick and you don't want to create 100 filters because you have 100 employees. That's why if you take a look on the top of the screen, you see that we have some avatar with my face, Mikil, and some more colleagues. You can directly click on them. You can also use a search engine to find quickly the issue that you are looking for, or you can still use a quick filter as well. Just for your information, it's not mentioned here, but Atlassian in the background is still working on artificial intelligence. And so it means that based on you as a user, as a guy, you are still looking for some, I don't know, people, some topic, etc. And so it means the AI is always looking for or providing you with a result so more appropriate based on your general search, which is really good. So I can't show you because it's not a demo, but it's something you should know that exists on cloud, but not on on-prem environment. Another good point for the cloud environment is the fact that they propose you some nice new gadgets regarding, for example, the insights. Insights are some kind of help when you talk about development, etc. And so you get a clear view or your sprint commitment, for example, the issue type breakdown, etc. But it's just the beginning. It's still under construction. And so it means they are going to provide you with so more feature in the future. If we move to the Kanban view, not so much difference. You can keep in mind what I just said. And again, you still have the insight. So you see that there is a difference. So it's, of course, the active sprint. So I can see my sprint progress. I don't have to go to report somewhere, etc. No, it's just in front of me. Just have to click on it and I get my result. I think one more point. I don't have really a demo of this or any explanation, but I can tell you for developers, if we talk about the code option on the left panel, you will get a lot of other functionality for integration, continuous development, etc. So you have a lot of integration for this. And so if you need, if you have any question regarding this, we can just propose you another session because we don't have time for this today. It's too, too complex and too big as a topic. If you move to the first menu, so I just avoid it because I wanted to. The roadmap is something that is included in your system of Gyro software. So it's an easy way to manage your development in general. So it means that you have some epic, you associate, for example, some stories, some bugs, some tasks, etc. And you get a roadmap to just see if you are on good track or not. Of course, again, you can filter based on some information. You can just update the view based on the view settings. So you have some option that you can select and you can directly see the link. Again, I can see that my reports epic is just in the middle of my customer's feedback, but it should be done after. So I can directly move from my roadmap view from one place to another, and it adapts the dates automatically, of course. If you are a project manager and you would like to get more, let's go for premium. And in premium, you will get advanced roadmap. Advanced roadmap, it's really more for portfolio management. So it's only from the premium plan again, but it's a real plus to manage your development. And if you have multiple teams, it's a real plus to manage all this information in a single place. So here, I have some team with some color, and you can see on the right side in advanced roadmap, I just take all information and I put it directly on my view. And so it's easy to see. So even if you have a project for software solution, you have another project, you will get a clearer view. So it's a Gantt chart in a way with a really user-friendly interface. And you can create a lot of plan if needed. So you have a specific plan for this team. You have in your portfolio management a program, as we say, and in the program you have a lot of projects. Then you just filter based on some information. You can have different view if needed. And again, if we talk about project management, you would like to get a dependencies report, you can get it, it's included in. And you can do the change you want to do before impacting the live environment. So even if you would like to create a baseline or to do some change before publish it, it's possible. So as you can see on the screen, on the top right corner, review changes. So it's already alert me on the fact that I have 46 warning on this. And so I can click on it and the system is going to help me to rearrange all those items. For your information, it allows you to manage the teams workload as well. So if you need, you can have specific teams and say, okay, the workload could be that, and based on your story point, etc., you can just say, okay, we have enough time or not, or we are overloaded for this period, and so you are going to restrict your or reschedule any development. That was for Gyro software. For Gyro service management, again, we know that Atlassian did a lot of improvement. So let's move to this part, and you have Gyro service management. With the basic of Gyro service management is always talking about the queues. The queues are, to me, really different. So I know they did some improvement on data center, for example, but on cloud, it's clearly more user-friendly. You get really quick results. And when you talk about the queues, you can do, for example, you can star the queues to get your favorite as a first place. You have the team priority, which is decided by the team leader. And then you have the other. So meaning that you can hide some queues that you are not interested in. So if I go for the all open, that's one of my queue. It's the same than before. You create just a query to select what you would like to display, and you select the column you would like to display as well. So if you don't want to get all information, of course, you hide them. No so much difference, but to me, if we talk about only the fact that you can hide or display some queues, it's a plus, and as a favorite, so meaning for every user, it's always the same. People are just saying, okay, we need a queue, another one, and another one again. At the end, you have 100 queues, and people are not taking a look at it because you have too much. So here you just add as favorite, and it's okay. So the plus is the fact that you can directly select some issues or even one issue and do a kind of bulk change on it. So for example, here I selected 3 issues in total, and I would like to use a specific transition for those 3 incidents. And you see here I have all my transition. So if I click on start progress, I go to work in progress. It's available only for 2 of them. And why? Because if I take a look just on the right side, you see that one of them is already on work in progress. If I would like, for example, to do one by one, I can directly click on the status from my queue. You don't need to always select based on the checkbox, and edit directly the information from the queue itself. So it's a nice way to support or help your agents when they work on, because it's sometimes for incidents, for example, you have 10 people that just raise a bug. I can't access my system anymore because the system is down. You take all 10 of them, you just go to done, and you add, for example, the command to say, okay, it's done. Can you just check again, please? Instead of just do one by one or do a bulk change somewhere. No, it's direct. So it's really better. Another point which is really good to me is the fact that you can find some similar requests. So if you have a huge list and you know that someone already provide a solution for this, you can click on the button and it shows you the similar requests to just get the history and see how did we manage it before. Of course, you probably know it, but if we talk about raising a request from the customer, of course, what is happening, you provide a URL to go to the portal site, and you get a specific portal with your own branding, with any information you need. So not so much difference between on-prem and on cloud. It just, the interface is more clear to me. So it's something really lighter in a way, and it's more trendy. So the fact is, here you can do the same stuff than before. The only point is, if you go to the portal and you would like to raise a request, you will see that there is some difference, because before you had, for example, the project to select, and when you are in the project, so the portal project, you can select the group and then any request you can raise. In this case, the group are not something like on the left side of all the services that you propose. It's really a kind of box where you can just click on it and you get all the requests directly and you access to the request. So you can keep an eye on any of them and get an overview of all the services that you propose. So it's really different for the customer, but to me, it's faster than before. So it could be a plus as well. If we talk about Agents View, there is not so much difference because I already explained you the difference before. The point for agents is the fact that now, if you go for the type, it's not only issue type as you had before, you can select the request type directly. And why? We had some experience with people who just create, for example, a service request for someone, but they didn't select the customer request type, meaning that, okay, it's done or we did it, etc. But the customer didn't receive any notification about it, which is not really good because they just forgot to provide a customer request type. In this case, you don't have to think about it because you just go and select directly your request type from here. And so you know that the customer will get the correct information. And of course, your reports will be correct as well. So many the agents are always using the request type instead of the issue type. And you are going to ask me, yes, and what about the issue type? Issue type is linked to a request type. So if you create based on a request type, you get the issue type. So no problem for this one. If we talk about the language support, which is more than a plus in Belgium, I don't know for other countries, but in our countries, we speak English, French, Dutch, German, and maybe more. So in our case, it's becoming really complex if you would like to provide a portal for any of them. So on the cloud, language support is something that is already included. So you just have to select based on the language proposed by Atlassian. You say that, okay, add a translation for this language. And then you say, is it visible to the customer or not? You go in and you do the translation for any elements of your portal. So to me, it's really a plus because before that was complex to get it. What you had to do is just buying an add-on for this. No, it's included, it's there. And if you have to update again, you don't have to ask to someone to do this. It's really easy. The project manager can do it by himself. If you change something, okay, it adapts automatically, which was not the case with the add-on. Mainly, you have a kind of keyword, but if the keyword is not there anymore, no translation. So that's a real plus. Let's move to the knowledge base. So if you didn't know, but normally you are limited to only one knowledge base. To me, the plus is the fact that on the cloud, you can select more than one knowledge base. So if you have, for example, like Hidalgo, some products that you propose, Exhalate, Table Grid, and so on, you could have a single support for products from Hidalgo support, and then you just propose any documentation from both knowledge base. So it's something nice as well. If you move for the premium, you will have a super nice gift from Atlassian, which is Opsgenie is integrated. So not 100% of functionality, but probably more than 90% of them. So they are still do some job on it, of course, because you never stop to evolve. But Opsgenie is integrated and allows you to manage any big incidents in a way, and it's already connected to Gyro Service Management. So you have your incident management with some alerts for example. You can see all of them. You have specific team for them. And of course, you have some reports and so on. So Opsgenie is a new way to manage your incidents and to provide some information to your customer and to let your support team manage them well. It's included in Gyro Service Management. So even if here you have the view on Opsgenie, of course, from the ticket in Gyro Service Management, you have a link between both and you can get some information as well. Another one, which is probably one of my favorites, to be honest, is Insight. If you didn't know it yet, Insight is being acquired a few months ago by Atlassian, and the goal is to integrate it inside of Gyro Service Management Premium for cloud. It means that if you talk about CMDB, so the goal is to get your own database to manage all the assets of your company. In this case, what do you have is the product for this, and the product is integrated in Gyro Service Management, meaning that if you would like to use it on the portal side, for example, you can. It's something you can give an access to your customer, but not in this way. They won't see the database as you see here. It's only one field, and based on the field, you get a list. You get a list. For example, I would like to select one of the server, or I would like to use it as a CRM and say, oh, what is the role of the guy that I'm looking for? Is CEO, of course, then you get it. For the agent, it's really different because it means that if you have some data in a database, you would like to use it. And of course, the agents can get an access to your CMDB to get a clearer view of any information. In our case, we have a server. I would like to know why it doesn't work anymore, but I see in my database it's still running. So probably it's not due to the server, it's due to the computer of the customer. And anything is linked together. So it means that you can also check, okay, we have an app which is down for this module. You have the module connected to the app. The app is connected to a virtual machine, which is on a specific server and so on. So you can get all the paths between all elements. And as mentioned, if we talk about the customer, as you see, that's a normal system. So we have a list here. I would like to get a manager of someone, and I get a list of all my manager. It's really easy to manage. Agents view, not on the object only, but on the ticket. I would like to get my affected business service. We know that's Confluence, but the goal is to know, for example, what is the importance of Confluence and what are the reference hosts. You get a clearer view on it. If you click, you are redirected directly to the object. So let's move to one of the next points. It's Confluence. Confluence, you already know it, of course, because it's your documentation tool. And there is a lot of difference in the user interface. But to me, you can say that it's the same general mindset. But you have more flexibility, you have more features, and in one place only. So really great to use. And mainly when we talk about product, I just provide Confluence to my customer, and after a few minutes, hours, they already use it by themselves. So it's really easy to use, and on cloud, it's even easier. So no surprise, of course, if we go on the cloud and we talk about Confluence, you can see that it's not so different as Gyro. So you have your own view, the home, it's like your work, and I get a clearer view of page that I have visited, worked on, draft, start, etc. And even the space, we have a list here. On the right side, it's kind of dashboard to show you, for example, the feed with all updates of the more popular, or some announcements as well, if it's necessary. Then, of course, one of the main part that has changed a lot to me, and what's not so clear at the beginning, was the templates. Template is really more powerful than before and more clear to anyone. Before, you had just a list of some kind of box with a name and a description. Not really, it was not so clear. And today, as you can see, I have a lot of templates, and I can reach them really easily. Those templates are mainly proposed by Atlassian, meaning that you have more than 80 templates for your daily job, and they are still growing on it. So even if you talk about specific products, specific meetings, specific, I don't know, documentation, you can just try if you see something that is nice to you. So it's based on some categories, of course. You can use a search engine, and when you found what you are looking for, you just click on it. And before using it, you get a clear overview of how does it look like. On the right panel, you can see that, okay, 90 days plan, okay, that's the one I'm looking for. And I can add it to my favorites via the star. It's really easy. You use a template, it creates it for you. It's nice, easy to do, really, really, really easy. Let's move to the environment, so specific spaces. So we created, for example, human resources spaces where we have a lot of information. And what I would like to use is still the blog post, for example, the recent space activity. I would like to get a specific layout. So if you know Confluence, you don't see so much difference. Again, it's more light than before. So less information, or it's more clear in a way. What I clearly like is the fact that on the left panel, you still have the structure, so with the hierarchy, but I can directly have some interaction with my page. For example, the three dots menu allows me to do some action on the page without going on the page, because if you know Confluence, you know that you have to click on it, access to the page, and then you can do some action. Here, directly without going to the page, I can already do something, which is a plus to me. You win sometimes, even if it's a few seconds at the end of the year, it's a lot. Then if you take a look, you can see that I have a plus just on the right side. It allows me to directly create a page with this page as a parent. So of course, again, if you were in Confluence before, you have two choices. You click on the page, it just appears, and then you create a page in the page. So not always fast. And the other way is just I create a page anywhere, and then I move the page from my creation part, or I just publish the page and then I move it again. No, you have easier is this one. Another good point, if you have a lot of documentation, of course, what is happening? You are looking for page. Sometimes the name is not clear. It's why if you just use a mouse over, you will get a first clear overview of the page with the title, who created it, when it has been updated, and some information. Of course, we can't show you all the page, but you can directly see what is the first content, edit the page, and add it as your favorite. If I go on a page and I would like to edit it, normally you should not see so much difference between the cloud and the server environment, because most of information are still there. So if you would like, for example, to use a specific style, or if you would like to add a checkbox, some media, etc., it's something you can still do. So macro is a little bit different than before, but you have more macro, I think, than before. And the good point is, if you include a macro on a page, sometimes you have a preview that you didn't have before. If you would like to still create a kind of layout on your page, you still can do it. The difference is, if you go down on this print screen, you see that I have some small square here. It's because I would like to select my layout. That's the only difference than before, because before it was on the top of the page. That's all. Same for publish and close, by the way. So when you edited your page and you're happy with the result, you just get your page as you had before. It's easy. So I don't care what you would like to do, etc. You still are able to do it. But in our case, you have some more functionality that you didn't have before. For example, I told you about the analytics. If you take a look to the page, so you have the vacancies title, then you have the created by, last update, and if you take a look to the right, you see that one person views the page until now. So it could be really useful. And if you click on it, you get a report based on this. You have the team calendars, which is included in the premium. So it could be nice. You can include a calendar on your page, or directly see, for example, some information. It could be connected to Gyro and so on. So it's really something you can appreciate. Bulk archive, again, is something you can do, and archive your data. So that's the point I just said. If I move to the next step, we can talk about the permission, because I told you there is some specific permission based on your plan. So again, if you are on server, you know that you can lock a page for some people. If you go on the upper right corner, you can get a locker, which is red, and before it was open and black. So if it's red, it means that you did some restriction. So you are already able to do some restriction, like who can view and edit the page, etc. So you can see it directly. If you click on it and you get, for example, the specific system, you see here, I don't know why Mikil is not able to see the page. So I just use Mikil name and I see if he can view and comment or anything like it. And the system just helps me to understand why Mikil is not able. So before on the meeting note, he is able, but if I take a look to this meeting notes, this specific meeting notes, Mikil is not able to do it. So it's really helpful when you are an admin or a space admin to understand why your people are not allowed to check a content. Of course, it's not over. We still have a lot of system to talk about, but the time is running. I still have 2 minutes. So just for your information, external collaboration, again, it's something which is coming. It's to me a real plus, so I will be really happy to talk about it later. The copy space permissions is something nice. It's something which is not on server, etc. It's only on cloud in the future. So it allows you to just say, okay, we were happy for this space permissions, for example, and I would like to get the same on this new space. Easy to do. If we talk about the automation, so you see it's maybe a little bit small, but the interface is clearly the same than you know on Gyro. So yeah, it will be a plus and it will avoid a lot of manual action. So for this time, I am on time. I thank you for this. And what I propose is just to get a small break of 5 minutes just to allow any people who would like to get another cup of coffee or even water. That's what I want, no? And of course, in 5 minutes, Tom is going to appear on your screen and share with you his knowledge. Oops, thanks to you. right. Yeah. And mic is on, by the way. Check what? The presentation. Yes, I think. Yeah.
Hello there. Check test 1, test 2.
It looks like we have some response, yes?
Yes, all right. Hello there, and welcome in the second part of the presentation. Thank you all for coming back after the short break. And now, after the complete presentation of Guillaume telling everything that's different between the server version and the cloud versions, it's time to go to the second part and decide and tell you all the secrets on how to get to the cloud. The best format to do that is the format that we have learned everywhere, especially using TikTok, etc. Like a very simple way describing how to draw an O, something like this. So you just draw 2 circles and then you draw the rest of the O. And then if I would only present it this way, the presentation would already be over. But luckily for you, that's not my style. I love to go further and longer than ever before. So the next 50, 60 minutes, I'm going to tell you everything or many things regarding the migration. So what's the whole port of the whole point of doing a migration? Of course, we have multiple steps. And steps, that means that we have to start with our very first step. And what's it called? Assess your options. And that's a very interesting one, because should we really go to the cloud? Oh, if we go to the cloud, what are we going to gain? And if we go into the cloud, what will we lose? So it's already very interesting to start with that question itself, and not half-assed, but we're really going to for the extra mile, because a good start is half the battle. It's very it totally makes sense. It's very interesting as well. So where do we can start? Where can we start with our complete battle? And luckily for us, there's already a very interesting and very easy way to get started, and that's the migration assessment tool. And as you might see, I typed the URL completely over there as well, but as we already mentioned in the comments, we will share with you all the presentations, all the slides, and the links will be clickable as well. So you can take screenshots, you can try to type everything over, but luckily we'll also be so kind to share everything with you. But if you would go to that particular site, you will see that Atlassian has provided a very high-level quiz that you can take to see what should we do in order to our migration. It helps you seeing whether or not it would make sense to go to data center, to the cloud, what kind of plans that you would need, etc., etc., etc. So it's already a very nice beginning. Take the results with a grain of salt. And let's continue with the real work that you will do yourself. And what's the real work? What's the next step that you will probably will take yourself? Is taking a look at your current landscape. And landscapes can be very interesting and very special as well. But of course, I mean with the current tooling landscape that you have in your own company. As we're coming from a time where the shadow IT was still a thingy, it's interesting to see what kind of things are basically running within the company. And also, if there are some instances, are they all self-managed? Or are there already some cloud products somewhere within our company? How many employees are using each product? For what purpose? Do we have a marketing department? Do we have an HR department? Do we have IT departments, etc., etc., etc.? But not only an assessment on how many products that we might have, but also how often are they being used? Is it really like a very critical part of the workflow for particular people, or is just something random that might have been used to set up a demo and then it's never been used again? Also, are there some instances that you previously weren't aware of? And if you do so, do you plan on keeping them, or do you want to demolish them as quickly as possible? And also, especially when you're using or taking a look at the self-managed instances, what versions are they running? Are they old? Are they still supported? Are they at risk? Might they need some urgent patching? Yes or no? And not only that, then the amount of instances is interesting, but of course also how standard are they, or how customized might they be? Are there some scripts written for particular instances? Do they have many apps? Maybe you have yourself written some plugins for specific integrations. Lots of interesting questions indeed, to just go over and see what we have running within our own teams. So that's one. We know that we might have lots of products they might use for different settings as well. So another thing that might be very relevant is making sure that the features that we might have and then the problems that we're solving with those particular instances, that we can solve the same problems with, for example, the cloud instances. And therefore, there are some pages provided by Atlassian themselves with the biggest differences between the server data center products and the cloud products. As I mentioned before, all these links are clickable. So whenever you get a slide deck, go crazy and just click on them. If you can't wait, just start typing the name and you will find them right away in the documentation of Atlassian. It's a very interesting starting point to see what are the big differences that we should be aware of, because there are some differences, as Guillaume already pointed out, like new features. Some things might be limited. What are really the big differences, and are they going to impact me? So you have also not only a difference between the cloud and the server versions, but you also have this other page as well, helping you. And if we say compare Atlassian Cloud to data center, a very important part, of course, is also the pricing part. Luckily, Atlassian also created the part where you can create your own return on investment study that you might be that you can use to stuff in your own business case that you will be presenting within your company. Of course, hosting the instances yourself will have some costs, some visible costs, some invisible costs. So it's an interesting take to just take this quiz, go through it, and to calculate how much it might actually cost. As I said before, these results might be taken with a grain of salt. Sometimes they're totally spot on. Sometimes they might be a bit different within your company. Doesn't matter. It's always very valuable to put in your file, to put it in your business case that you might be presenting. Next to pricing, also very important, as well as Guillaume already mentioned with the access part. What's about the whole user management part? How many users do we have? How big is our organization? How many people need access to specific products? Do we have specific requirements? For example, do we need a third-party authentication mechanism? Do we need single sign-on? Do we need two-factor authentication, etc.? All those things might be interesting as well in order to see what kind of options that we actually have in moving forward. Now, if we decide to go cloud, the next part that we should do is, of course, pick a cloud plan that fits us. As Guillaume already mentioned, there are many plans. We have the free plan that might be very interesting for very small teams, but the moment you really start using the broad package of functionality that's available out there, we're basically looking to the standard and the premium part. The enterprise part is very complete package, but it's really tailored towards bigger companies. And especially the biggest part over there is the fact that you are able to have multiple instances. So it's really, when you're having a big multinational company, the enterprise part is definitely something that might be relevant to you. So if you already decided to go cloud and you already did a nice look on all the infrastructure that you have right now, that's time to go to the next point of your plan, and that's assemble a project team. So who should be in the Go Cloud team? Of course, that's a team that will get their own proper T-shirt and proper cap, etc. Goes without saying. But who should be on that particular team? And we start with the most important that every project manager will love. Of course, a project manager, someone who's responsible, a dedicated person who puts all the information together, will present the business case, manage the whole migration, tracks the status, all the tasks, basically your main point of contact. Very important to have a single point of contact in order to make sure that all the communication flows freely. But of course, as we all know, a project manager is very good at managing projects, but might not be the person who knows everything about the project. So of course, we're also going to need the system admins, the people who are able to configure and maybe or hopefully also manage all the information, all the applications that are hosted within your company. They know everything about the permissions, the workflows maybe as well. These are basically the people that will help you with the whole migration part, the whole technical part. In many cases, the system admins don't have all the information, and that's why, of course, it might always be interesting to put in a Atlassian partner on your team. Yeah. Hi, I'm Tom. I'm from Hidalgo. We're an Atlassian partner. Guillaume as well. So of course, might be interesting to think about this. Is of course not required, but we can see that for many customers that might help to bring temporarily some information and some knowledge to the team that will help evolve and make sure that the whole migration runs smoothly. Apart from that, shameless plug, sorry. Of course, we're gonna need some other team members as well, like someone who has a big bag of money, who will handle the budget approval or can approve the business case. And might also be the internal champion of Atlassian itself. Whenever there are some decisions to be made, the person who is totally on board and sees that all the power and all the features that will bring will be brought by the table by going to the Atlassian cloud, will be there and will be supporting the whole thingy as well. Apart from your sponsor, of course, you're going to need some technical team and testers, people who are potentially using the product later on and might have some very deep insights in how things should be working and are very good at breaking things. So you know really upfront if things are really working, yes or no. In many companies, we're also going to need the security, legal, compliance agents as well to make sure that whenever we move towards the cloud, they can validate that everything is fine and the risks are being assessed based on security-wise, legal-wise, compliance if you're in any regulated industry, for example. Very interesting to have those on board as well. And last but not least, of course, the product champions themselves. The people who will be cheering within the company itself. Whenever teams are migrated, they will help the teams getting more out of the tools than they have ever before. Wow, if only. If we have our product team and we know the applications that we would want to migrate, of course, time to zoom in to take our X-ray scanner and start looking into our instance. And if I mention X-ray, it's not just a random chosen word, but of course one of the most common used apps these days, because of course the apps are a very important part of your Atlassian stack. So yeah, what kind of apps do we have? And for every single app, the question is, how is the app actually being used? And by how many users, how many people are really taking advantage of the app? Maybe if we take a look at all the apps that are out there might be an overlap. Sometimes, especially when products are getting longer in their life, they might gain new functionality, and the new functionality might be overlapping with the older functionality. So might be interesting. Might be interesting time to take a look at all the apps that you have over there. But not only that, but also, is the functionality that we have right now, is it also available in the cloud? And if it's available in the cloud, is there a gap? Is there a difference between the functionality that we have right now versus the information that we have in the cloud? Also, is there a migration path? So if we have data right now being used within the plugin, is it also very easy to move all our data to our cloud version? Is there any cost difference? Might be that some plugins or some alternatives might be cheaper, might be more expensive, but provide more functions. Always interesting to see those differences as well. And of course, also very important, do we have expired licenses? Sometimes you might need the last version to make sure that you have all the information on board. But in order to move to the last version, you might need a valid license as well. So lots of questions to ask. And many customers have many apps. We have customers that have more than 20 apps per product. So how do you start using all this part? Is it really going to be manually and just creating very large Excel files or Word documents, putting in SharePoint? Luckily, we have other tools for that, but also luckily we have support for that. And support that Atlassian provides is the App Migration Assessment tool. And that's basically a tool that will help us, that will list all the apps that are provided within a specific tool, where we can see right away, is there a specific migration path already foreseen? Is it straightforward to use, yes or no? We can validate, and we can also document whether or not we decide to keep the app or to discard it right away. So it gives us a very nice overview. And during the assessment, if a new plugin would be installed, we can always see it over there. So that's a very interesting part, of course. How can we see this whole assessment tool? If you don't have it yet, because lately it has been bundled with the latest versions of the Atlassian products, if you wouldn't have the opportunity to have a more recent version, you can always go to the marketplace and install those. Those are free apps, and they will help you estimate the whole usage, help you determining compatibility, whether or not the features are completely up to par on the cloud, yes or no. And also will help you right away to decide whether or not the configuration data can be migrated or if it would be a reconfiguration exercise. Very interesting, right? So that's only the start. That's our whole assessment phase. As we say, a very good start is already half the battle. If we have gathered all that information, might be time to plan our migration. So to plan is, of course, the question, what's our strategy going to be? And what kind of steps do we need to take in order to get there? So luckily, for knowing what kind of strategy that we might need, we need to make sure that we can assess our complexity. For the complexity, we have a very nice chart over here with arrows all over the place. Yeah, as we can see, we see basically a nice line. We can see to the left the low complexity options and to the right the high complexity. So if we start, what will decide if it's going to be a migration of low complexity or high complexity? Many things, like we have the user count, how many users are there? Is it a small site with less than 1,000 users? Do we have more users? Do we have more than 750 users? Might be more complex, especially since all those users are able to create information as well. How are the users being authenticated? Do we need to change their usernames? Do we need to keep track of all the items that they created with their new username as well? But also the apps and customizations. How many apps do we have? Of course, the more apps that you might have, the more complex something might be. But also, how are the apps being used? What kind of apps might they be? For example, if you have script runner and you have like tens or maybe hundreds of scripts running, you have custom validators, post functions, etc. Of course, that's going to be more complex than if you would just have like for example a Glyphy diagram or Draw.io diagram tool. Definitely, there's a difference between those apps and customizations as well. Also, yeah, the consolidation part. Do we expect to move forward with one instance? Do we want to consolidate multiple instances that we might have right now into one? Yes or no? Of course, consolidation will bring more complexity to the table as well. And of course, depending on the Atlassian products themselves, some products are more complex and others are easier to migrate. For example, migrating Confluence to Confluence Cloud is rather easy walk in the park. Migrating Jira Service Management or Jira Service Desk, as it used to know, might be a tad more complex. But it really, it all depends. But luckily, we do have some answers already here. So if we know this kind of complexity, let's dive into the potential strategies that we might handle. So how are we going to migrate? And of course, the first one is the more straightforward one. And this is the lift and shift approach. It's very simple. And we just take all the data, product data, all the users, all the apps. We just migrate it to the cloud in a single migration. We discard our current production system and we just move further in the cloud. Of course, it's going to be that heavier. That is really like the Big Bang approach. So you need to make sure that everything is planned before. Something that you would have to replay multiple times before. Make sure that all the users are on board, know how they would use all the new changes, etc., etc., etc. So this Big Bang might be ambitious and might not always be the best solution. Are there other solutions? Yes, of course. So we also have the optimize and shift. And this one has got the Atlassian's badge of recommendation. What is it going, what does it take to optimize and shift? Well, it's basically an all add-ons migration. But at first we're going to assess which data we're going to migrate to cloud and which data are we going to leave behind. Even possible to just leave your old production environment running in read-only status. So we can always see what kind of tickets that might be. We might see old pages without just taking them offline in our own private network, for example. So we can always see the information if we would really need it. But for all the ongoing information, all the information that's really living and happy, etc., we can just put them in the cloud, and that's the real information where we keep on working. Other things that we might, other migration strategies are, for example, a phased approach, where we will migrate the data in stages instead of just everything all at once. And so as long as we're phasing out, we can see which kind of teams that we will migrate. We can train the teams, and of course, we can also learn from previous migration efforts. We can see what worked, what didn't work. We can accommodate our training materials and make sure that in this way we have more resources to allocate to all the users that might be struggling with the new environment. Yes or no? It might be interesting, especially if you have a smaller team. Might be better a way to divide your resources. If you don't have too much that you would want to keep, you can just also hit the very big reset button and just decide to start fresh. If you start fresh, of course, you don't have to migrate anything. You just create a new instance in the cloud and you start really from fresh. For many companies, this might be a rather valid solution when we have a Gyro that's being very old and the best practices have never really been applied or reapplied. You didn't have a continuous improvement cycle going on. So you might be working with the same way of working that you had 15 years ago. Might be interesting to see what it would take if you would start fresh and you would use all the new features, the new way of working. As Guillaume already mentioned, there's many new things that are available. Might be interesting as well. How long is it going to take? Depending on the strategy that you choose over here, going from the assessment to the final migration, let's say somewhere between 2 and 24 months. And 24 months might be very long, but especially for the bigger companies with many more instances that should be consolidated, etc., might take a long time. So therefore, it's very good that you're watching right now and learning everything you need. So that's a strategy. Of course, how are we going to migrate everything? And therefore, we have methods. What kind of methods do we have? Well, we have a whole list. It's nicely, we even put numbers before them. So you could see what is the way how we could migrate. Of course, the good old classic migration that always has been there is the native site import. So we just take everything and we just upload it to the cloud right away. Everything that we have will be imported. So it's very nice. We make sure that we don't lose any data. You can always also make use of the Cloud Migration Assistant. So these days, the Migration Assistant is available for the big products, Gyro, Confluence, Bitbucket. As we already mentioned, that the complexity of the Jira service management is a bit higher. It's because of the Cloud Migration Assistant is still being worked on for those specific projects. So what's the difference? In a service management project, we do have queues, we do have SLAs. We might have several configuration items that are special, like the customer request types with the custom fields, etc., etc., etc. So these might be depending on what kind of projects that you might want to use, the migration assistant might be very interesting. For example, if you would want to migrate Confluence, thanks to the migration assistant, you can just pick a space and migrate that particular space. So it's a very interesting option to use the phased approach, for example. If you do have some more specifics, or you do have some external plugins, or even some custom-made plugins, you luckily also have the possibility of using the CSV, XML, JSON export and import, or you can use your custom scripts to use the REST API that Atlassian provides, or if that's still not enough, you can also use a combination of all the methods before. So for the more hairy migrations, this might be definitely an interesting one. The longer we wait, the more apps that will be supported in the Cloud Migration Assistant, but sometimes we just want to move forward, of course. Next step is then make sure with all the information that we've gained, the strategy that we decided and the method that we planned is to actually plan the project. So what are we going to do? Yeah, we're going to set a timeline, going to create all the tasks to follow up, decide on a place for all the documentation. For establishing the timeline, of course, you can use a very nice tool like Jira, where you can have a nice and good looking roadmap. This is Jira Cloud, where you have the roadmap on the server. Unfortunately, we don't get it. What's interesting, yeah, make sure and be aware that the whole timeline will be definitely in flux. Many roadblocks might arise that you can't plan before. So just make sure that your plan is flexible, and make sure that you have some blocks for the research and decisions, and you can reiterate on that. We always plan with the old information that we have right now, and even if we did a good assessment, we might always discover new things coming along. So just take that into account and make sure that, especially for your testing phase, that you allocate enough buffer. But the most important part of the project plan is, of course, that you have a migration target date, and that we also can plan for the post-launch support. All right, so we have a plan. Now time to prep. What do we need to prep? Yeah, of course, we need to make sure that we have our team ready. We need to have the data ready. We need to have the environments, everything ready to migrate. So where do we start? Well, first we start by completing all the pre-migration items. Which items are those? Luckily for us, Atlassian has provided some great list. As I mentioned before, this slide deck is going to be shared with you, and these targets are linked as well. So you will get a direct link to the Atlassian documentation, where you'll find those migration checklists that you can just run through. And if you go through all those pre-migration items, you already seen many things that you would have think of or wouldn't have thought of yet. If you have completed all those migration items, we can continue by completing the whole run book, what's going to be take to migrate, what should we be doing when. We can create our test cases. And test cases, very important to make sure that the migration is complete. So definitely add a test case to verify anonymous access. We're moving to the cloud, so make sure that there's at least one test case where you will validate that if you're not logged in, that you can't see any information, especially information that's from within your company. You definitely want to make sure that that's information that keeps within your company. Also, very simple test cases like just a verification of the amount of data that has been transferred. For example, just create a test case where you will note down the amount of issues, the amount of apps, attachments, project, etc., etc., etc. When you migrate, it's very easy to check if those numbers match, yes or no. If those match, you can be a very happy camper. If the number on the cloud is higher, you can start worrying. But many test cases, make sure that you have several test cases and that you don't have to bring them up at the time itself. You can prepare already those things. Also create a communication plan. Of course, the communication, if everything went well, the communication that everything's going to be down, that customers won't be able, or your colleagues won't be able to make changes to the products for the coming weekend, for example, whatsoever. And maybe even also create a communication plan for when things go completely wrong. If things go completely wrong, you definitely want to be prepared for that. I don't want to hassle anything, as you can already create the communication, and let's just pray or hope or just work very hard in order to make sure that you're never ever going to need it. But always better safe than sorry. And of course, another thing that you're going to prep are the training materials. Some of the materials you already can be providing upfront, that people already know the day they start working on the cloud, that they'll have the basic information that they might need. But you can also provide some follow-up training materials, the things that we see with customers. Whenever you get a training typically lasts like a few weeks, and after a few weeks, you totally forgot what you actually learned. So it might be very interesting to prepare some materials for a longer period of time as well. That you have one core package of training, just the bare minimum, and every week or every 2 weeks you can provide some small nuggets in different ways to users, or maybe even provide your own system where they can find new additional lessons. Very interesting for your users. If we have all the prep, we can finally get our hands dirty and we can start the whole testing. We can test if whether or not the migration will work. We can also test and validate how long it's going to be taking, especially if you decide to migrate during a weekend. How long is going to take? Are we going to be able to migrate during the whole weekend, or are we going to run out of time, yes or no? Very interesting. So in order to test the whole migration, we have created a plan with steps for you as well. So first step is, of course, creating backups. If you have created your backups, next step is creating backups. And of course, the next step is creating backups. Very important. Don't forget, whenever you start working with your data, make sure you have a backup. That you have a backup maybe from the tools themselves, create an XML dump, but preferably also provide a backup from your system environment. Provide a backup of your disk, provide a backup of your database that you can always revert whenever something would go terribly wrong. So what's the real list of the whole migration? Backup everything. I think that's clear by now. After we have backup everything, we can start a test migration. If we have a test migration, we can do a sanity check. The sanity check contains all the tests that we have written before, combined with some smart actual testing. We will conduct some user acceptance testing. Only if you done your own sanity check and you know that everything we find, then hand it over to your select set of users to perform the acceptance testing. And we try if needed. Maybe something will go wrong. Maybe some feedback will come that will require you to test all over again. Things happen. It's not always straightforward. Sometimes it might be very subtle, like work logs coming on the wrong day because of a time zone difference, because totally all the workflows have shifted one complete day, because instead of 12 a.m. they're suddenly 1 hour earlier and they're 11 p.m. I think that will happen. Don't worry, just plan for it. Know that that those things might go wrong. Don't say or don't assume that everything will go well, but just retry it completely and make sure that you have your tools. That is very simple to hit the reset switch and just try them again. And making sure that whenever you provide your set of steps, there's one smooth run. Document as many things as possible in your runbook, that the moment that the final migration arrives, so that you don't have to stress, but you can always follow your plan and make sure that you don't miss any subtle steps, of course. If all those things are tested and they're very well, we can finalize our migration date. Hopefully it's the same as we planned before. Maybe it's a different one. And by that, we also need to make sure that we complete our total preparing steps. Might be that our training materials that we started a few months earlier, by now they should be finished. If everything is fine, we have tested everything, it's number 5. Step number 5 is, of course, migrating. Migrating everything is the final day, weekend, whatsoever period of time that we have decided that all the data and users are moved to the cloud. Any of the issues will be resolved. So how do we test the whole migration? Of course, we're going to back up everything. We're going to start our migration. We're going to do a sanity check ourselves. We're going to conduct the user acceptance testing and also make sure that the access from the old application is limited. Very interesting one, very important one as well. And you don't want that your users just keep using their old tools while everything has been moved to a new environment. And make sure if you keep your old instance as a read-only instance, make sure that's read-only and make sure that no new data can be created within the projects that you have migrated, within the spaces that you have migrated. Make sure it's totally locked. And if that's the case, then you are ready to launch. So you can get some sleep and just wait until your colleagues can come in. And if they come in, you are just going to help them set up and make sure that in the meantime, also the old server might be retired as well. How are you going to do that? Yeah, we're going to follow up the whole launch from within the cockpit. So make sure that you monitor all the support channels, assist your IT teams, just see how many questions that might arise, or many questions that might come in from mail, from phone. It's very interesting making sure. Yes, I can see it. Making sure that whenever an incident might be there, make sure that there's no big problem that's behind. If that's the case, just make sure that you can dive in right away and make sure that all the small fires don't become big flood fire hazards. Make sure that the users are all trained. If some people, unless you might have given them a little training, but they might not know where to find everything, just make sure that you can help them right away. And also use it as a learning impression as well. So note down everything, all the relevant first impressions, especially when you're using the phased approach. It is very interesting to make sure that the next phase will become better. And then the most important part, of course, so we did all the work, we prepared, we make sure that we have everything, we did our plan, tested, The most important is aftercare. And the aftercare, if you are finally back in the new environment, we're in the cloud, then is the time that we can try to discover a whole new world. Wow, fireworks. Very interesting, because this is the moment that you can finally step back, celebrate with your team all the effort that you did, the fact that it's complete success, the whole migration went so well, something that you definitely should celebrate with your team. But also this is the moment that you can finally start your new programs, your new projects for improving the way how you work together. You don't want to do too many things at the same time. So you definitely would want to wait until all the data has been migrated. But when it has been migrated, this is the way that you can start using the whole new dynamic, all the new functionality that are there in the cloud. You can start using them and make sure that your people, your colleagues are even happier at work and working in a better way together than they were ever before. So for wrapping up, I still have some resources. As I mentioned before, we will hand you out all the slides. They're clickable. If you don't have the patience to wait, you can just start typing this URL. Very interesting one is the whole migration center that Atlassian has created. It's out there, atlassian.com/migration. You will find plethora of documents, of documentation that will help you right away. Also, if you're still blocked by some information, or you might some new features, take a look at the Atlassian roadmap for the cloud. Over here, you can see for all the products, new bigger chunks of features, solutions, etc. that are being developed, are being delivered as well. So especially if you're in a regulated industry, it's very interesting to follow up over here when particular pieces of information might arrive. Also, other things that might be relevant to you is like the whole migration assistant part. When are specific things coming to the cloud? Should we wait for that? Yes or no, etc. So very interesting resource as well. But I'm going to close with another very important resource. So this is for people who don't know it, this is Manuel. Manuel's working for Hidalgo. You can always reach out to Manuel whenever you have a question on his email address. So I have a question. I had to use a smaller email address, so you can just reach out to sales@hidalgo.com. And wrapping up, I have one last slide, and that's the big question slide. So this is the moment that I just take a step back. Thank you for the virtual applause. And right now, Guillaume, do you think that we got any questions?
Looks like no. So I just have one point that I can share.
Yes.
Let's go for it. So it looks like something appears on your screen normally. So if you can see an amazing picture of, unfortunately that's not Tom, but it's an amazing picture. You can just get your gift. So just click on the button. It's not spamming stuff, etc. Just click on it and you will be redirected to a specific form to get a gift. For a lot of reasons, and because at Hidalgo we do care about ecology, of course, we can't send the gift so far away. So maybe if you are not in Europe, for example, you can't get the gift. But we will do our best for the rest of people. So feel free just to fill in the form and just take your gift before Christmas, maybe. Yeah. So thanks for your time, and thanks to Tom for the presentation as well, of course. I hope that you enjoyed it. Of course, as we explained, maybe it's really, really hard topics sometimes. And so if you need any support, if you still have any question, if you would like to ask something, or if you would like to have a private meeting with Tom, it's possible as well. Just ask, of course, and we will do our best with it. So just send an email to the sales@hidalgo.com, of course, and we have some people who can just take a look at the email and provide you with some responses. If you don't have any question, then it means that we did better than before, because it's finished earlier, which is really good and really impressive for Tom, of course. And we can just say goodbye and wish you a nice and happy end of year. We do have a question. We do have a question. Okay, let's go for Tom. If I can.
Hi. So it's a question coming from Steiner. I think Guillaume might be interesting to join as well in answering. So what do you think about the cloud user data being kept in the United States?
What does it mean?
So it's a very interesting question. So regarding the whole data residency part, we know Atlassian has been moved to Amazon Web Services for hosting all their instances. They do have many data centers around the world. It used to be that all the Atlassian instances were run at the West Coast, in the US at least. But these days, as you already have seen, that there was also one small point on the slide of Guillaume, is the fact that there's some data residency options, and you can indicate in which kind of area that you want that your data is being stored. It's something that's rather new. They're heavily working on it. What does it mean? It means that all the data that has been user generated, that will be stored basically in one particular realm. So for example, the European realm might be Ireland, might be Frankfurt. You can't decide on a data center level yet, or not on a country level yet. But you can, for example, ask the data is being stored in Europe. All the static resources, etc., are being put on a CDN, so those are accessible around the world, but the user-generated data, etc., should live in one specific data center. It's not the US, but could be, for example, Frankfurt or Ireland. Does it mean that also all the plugin data is being stored in Europe? Not yet. That's something that's being taken care of right now. And it's a longer-term project that will take definitely more time. Atlassian has created a new platform for developing plugins called Forge, which is in a very early stage right now, but already provides the option to make sure that plugins are basically running in the same data center as the Atlassian instance of the customer itself. Right now, there are some options to migrate data to another data center. They're not heavily being developed because Forge is right now for Atlassian taking center stage and getting more resources in order to work on that. But it's a very interesting question, and very thoughtful as well. So especially if you're in an industry that's very sensitive to this kind of information, might be interesting. There's a whole legal website of Atlassian itself. It's linked from the Cloud Migration Center, where you go and see what kind of information it's stored over where, how it's being handled, etc. So that's something that you definitely would want to check. And also, whenever you decide to use another plugin, if that's an area where your company is very sensitive to, definitely make sure that you check the privacy policy of all the plugins and see where they're processing their data as well. For example, EasyBI, a very popular reporting tool on top of Gyro and Confluence. They're hosting their data in Belgium in the Google Cloud area in Mons. And every plugin vendor basically has its own option to host wherever the data they would want to. So it's always mentioned within the vendor itself, and also they might indicate what kind of data that they might store. So it's definitely something that you want to see. So yes, there is data residency available right now. It has been enabled recently in standard plans as well. Before it was only a premium feature, but they have enabled it in the standard plans as well. And then I see another question coming from, yes, will they ensure the EU data residency before the final end of life? Yeah, that's a very good question.
Should be okay.
Yeah, should be. We don't know yet. Especially Atlassian doesn't provide the whole timeline for all those things. They're working on it and they plan to achieve it. Of course, it's not a hard promise, but it would totally make sense, especially since they're becoming a cloud-first company. So the cloud is very important to them. The last updates that we got is that they're currently very hard working on all the compliancy for the required for the bigger enterprises. So like banking sector and pharmaceutical companies, like the whole HIPAA, etc. They're working on that, and they started working with the plugin vendors as well to provide a way of working together and making sure that there's a plan and that plan will be there within 2 years. I hope. Yes, and another question from Tom. So I'm just going to answer my own question. It's nice. So Bamboo server customers will need to migrate to data center in the near future. What products should we use for our on-premise build and deployments? That's a very good question. And yeah, it really depends on how you would want to proceed with the CI/CD. Many companies are already embracing CI/CD tools in the cloud, like GitHub Actions, like Bitbucket pipelines, like GitLab. If you need something on-premise, you still have all the classic options. You still have, for example, Jenkins. You can run GitLab on your own premises. Or you might even combine the cloud CI/CD tools with local runners as well. And that's something that's being possible with GitHub Actions, with Bitbucket pipelines. And for specific parts of your build that you just push it to another area, might be something locally, or you just use another vendor for your CI/CD tools. In a last semi-summit, Atlassian had created the Open DevOps plan or framework, or how you want to call it. Basically, it's a program where they really start working together with competing vendors. That's not only Bamboo that will get the nice integration, but it's also possible, for example, for GitHub and GitLab, the biggest competitors, that you will get the same level of integration that you would have with the Atlassian tools, that you would also have the same integration with the other vendors. So if you really are needing something on your own premises, definitely something that you would want to take into account. I'm going to say bye as well, because everybody's saying bye, and I'm going to wave and say bye and Merry Christmas and enjoy your year. And it's a shame that we couldn't do this in person, but yeah, I'm just going to wave again. Bye, everybody. Can we just